Well, hello, everybody. How are you? I hope all things are well today in your world. I hope all things are well and things are going the way you planned them on this fabulous Friday. I'm Aaron Wells, and this is my family. It's a time when come together with just conversation around family healing, family wellness. We began bringing this class, this conversation to the platform at the beginning of April. And the intent is and has been to be able to discuss wellness from a family perspective. We do so many things that are geared toward information, knowledge, access, and opportunity for individuals to be well in their lives, to build lifestyles of recovery and wellness. But many times we do not focus on family units. And we talked about early on in our first my family, just how we get to redefine family, because family is not always the nuclear family, mother, father, 2.5 children or whatever that is, and dog, a cat, and a goldfish, and a white picket fence. That's not everybody's family. Many times, because of life situations, we come through life. Our family can be through people that we've met through systems, and it might not necessarily look like father, mother, 2.5 children, dog, goldfish, white picket fence. Family may be the community that I find myself in with commonalities. My family may be comprised of transgendered men and women. My family may be co-workers. My family may be extended family of friends. My family might not be my biological family, but may have been embraced and brought into, absorbed into the family of a spouse. And so family looks so different than those traditional definitions. And so my family talks about how we, through conversation, build family wellness, recovery, and healing. So whoever you are, this is about you being able to make whatever your definition or reality of family is work in such a way that everybody in family is healing and everybody in family gets to find recovery, right? And so that's what we're doing. 1 o'clock on Fridays through the month of April. We'll run it up the flagpole and see how it waves and see if it's something that we want to continue. But over the next couple of weeks, here we are with my family. And these are the conversations about family wellness, recovery, and healing. As you come on, please remember to share this conversation on your social media platform. Please remember to share, to go to the Promise Resource Network Facebook page, and to please like our page so that you can get notifications every time our classes and conversations come on. Please go to our YouTube channel. Go to our YouTube channel and subscribe for the same purpose, right? So you'll get notifications. I get notifications on my phones all the time about the different classes that PRN is offering. So wherever I'm at, I'm able to access the great conversations that we have that help people to build wellness and recovery and sustain what they have built. All right, so thank you. Let's go. Let's talk about it. Let's look at from the perspective of family as we discuss and build our wellness, our recovery, and our healing. Remember, I always share with you, anything that is sustained is built. It's built, right? It's built to last. And so our recovery is built. It doesn't just happen. Our wellness, we build that. It doesn't just happen. Our healing, we get to experience because we we build and we take the time and use the processes and the tools and resources to build our recovery and wellness. Also, I want you to know that one, my computer is plugged in, and so I've got juice. That's number one. So I don't have to take a commercial break. Number two, I've got my tea, which I love my tea. And I hope you have had a refreshing drink today. Tea, water. And I am ready to begin. Let's talk about it. So over the last, hey, Roberta, buddy, what's going on with you? Let's flow. We've been talking about family. Last week, we talked about family togetherness. The week before, we defined family and talked about what family look like for each and every one of us, because it does not have to be the same. It doesn't have to be the same for any of us. Our families, just like us as individuals, are like fingerprints, right? They're different. There may be some commonalities. There may be some similarities, but your family is your family, and mine is mine, according to who we know family to be. But what we all do know is that we would love to be able to experience recovery, wellness, and healing within the family, because those are the people that we love, and we love them because they see us. We love them because they have our cares and concerns embedded in their hearts through love. Today, I would like to share with us and spend time talking about family identity. Family identity. If we're going to talk wellness and recovery of family, we're going to have to travel through, right, the doorway of family identity. And I want to be able to talk about family identity because many times we're moving so quickly, right? We don't identify, we don't realize what we have gotten from family, right? What the core stuff, the anchors, the foundations, the philosophies, traditions, values. These are things that we get to discuss within family, but we want to take it a little step further today, right? Because sometimes our family identity, it does not complement my individual identity. Many times my family identity, this is who our family is, that doesn't necessarily mean that this is who I am or choose to be. We can get lost in the greater. We can get lost in the larger. I'm from Philadelphia, and though I live here in North Carolina, I consider myself a Philadelphian. But Philadelphia is the sixth largest city in the country. So within Philadelphia, though I identify with, once in Philadelphia, I have to be Aaron Wells. So I have to find my identity within the larger. Philadelphia, the city, is the larger. I am a Wells. I am Aaron Wells. My Wells family is larger. But within that largeness, I have to have my identity. So there's an identity of the city of Philadelphia. There's an identity that the Wells family has, but then there's the identity that I have. And so sometimes those do not complement each other. And so I have to begin to understand myself, understand who I am, my identity, to make sure that it is not, when it is absorbed into the larger identity, is not lost. All right. So we'll talk about that. It is family identity versus the identity within the family, or better stated, who are we, family, larger entity, versus, it should be an S there, versus who am I, right? Who are we? Who am I? We establish who we are because we're born into that. But out of that, I got to figure out who I am. Because as I grow, some of that of who we are might not be who I want to be. And so we continue. Let's talk about it. Family identity versus the identity within the family. This is My Family with Aaron, conversations about family, wellness, recovery, and healing. So as we have the conversation, Research has shown, and I know because I researched it, research has shown that family history and identity actually help forge or shape or mold some stronger feelings about who we are, right? Research shows that family history and identity actually help forge or shapes or molds stronger feelings about acceptance, belonging, and well-being. Mm. I can speak for me. I am fortunate enough to come from a family um, where I found acceptance. And so for me, I was able at an early age to feel part of. I didn't have to go at an early age. We'll talk about that at an early age outside of my family context, outside of my family dynamic to find acceptance. Everybody can't say that. That's why I use the word fortunate when connected to anything dealing with my rearing or my nurturing or being raised, because I was fortunate to be born into the family that I was born into. Um, I found acceptance. Many people don't, but it's inside. It is inside family identity that we get to find that. It is inside family identity that we should be able to find acceptance, but we also find belonging within family, um, within family structures. We should be able to find the belonging, a place where we belong, not just accepted. Many people will accept you, right? Please come on in. Come on in. But I have to feel as though I belong. We struggle with that sometimes with employments. Hey, Tijuana Brown, we struggle with that sometimes with employment. We struggle with that in marriages at times. We struggle with that in schools, right? So we've been accepted in, but do I sense that I belong? And then there is the acceptance, belonging, and the well-being. Because if I'm accepted into the family structure and I have a sense and a feeling of belonging, then that other piece about recovery and wellness and healing is that I must also, and I should also experience well-being, safety, a place to explore thought, a place of receiving the positive nurturing and care and love. This is something about the family structure. And remember, we talked about this 2 weeks ago. Family structure is your identification. What my family looked like may not be what your family looked like. Every family doesn't have a father, a mother, 2.5 children, a goldfish, a cat, a dog, and a picket fence. Some of our families are single mothers. Some of our families are single dads. Some of our families have mom and dad in the house, but their relationship is so divided and they're so adversarial. It's like, we got a parent in one side of the house and a parent in another side of the house, or because maybe there's a distraction of economics or a distraction of relationship. It's like we have no parents in the house. And then there are some of us who are being raised or nurtured by extended family, right? And so there may not be a biological parent in the house, but now there's another parent representative. And so whatever that structure looks like for you, right? We find and we realize healing, recovery, and wellness when there's acceptance, belonging, and well-being. Creating a strong family identity helps build family wellness. And we're going to talk about identity, right? Remember, we're talking about the identity of family versus the identity of us as the individual inside the family. Well, so let's spend time with the family identity first, right? And then we'll spend time with the individual identity, and then we'll intercourse the two. I love that word. We will intercourse the two. We'll bring them together. We'll create that union with both of those thoughts. So creating a strong family identity, the larger identity, the entity dynamic identity, it really helps to build when it's strong. Strong would be the key word here. A strong family identity helps build family wellness. Again, I was fortunate to come through a family that has a strong family identity. Now, every segment of my family, I'm a Wells, and on the Wells side, I'm also a LaCorn and a Scott. On my mother's Cooper side, I'm also a Richards, with connections to the Longs and the Hills and the Johnsons. And so this connection, out of all of that, there's an identity that our families create. Our family identities can be defined as the habits that the family as a whole, right, has, the rituals that the family have, the values, and just the simple everyday culture. So when we talk about family identity, we can find that definition or those definitions inside of our habits, right? That's the identity. How does the family move? How does the family, this is our rhythm, right? This is our family rhythm. In my family, in my household growing up, on 2557 North Patton Street, in our family growing up, you had to bathe. Like for real. You had to bathe, you had to brush your teeth. Hygiene was important. We had to be nice to each other. My mom did not play. Listen, sibling rivalries was real, but meanness, abuse, verbal or any otherwise, not with Mary Wells. And so it became a habit within our family, and it was an identity within our family. There were rituals we had within the family. When I was being raised, we ate together. That was a family habit, and it was a ritual. Opening of Christmas gifts, right? Opening of Christmas gifts. After midnight, we would either open the gifts, or we would collectively get up in the morning. You could go back to bed, but we all got up at the same time. It was a family ritual. We did birthday. Well, we still do that. Birthday cake and ice cream for everybody's birthday. If it's a birthday, we get together. And even as we got older, there was the family ritual of ice cream and cake. The values that we have as family. My family values hard work. Like we want to earn ours. That's how we were raised. My mother did it. My father did it. And so those are the values. We believe in hard work. We believe in supporting one another. We learned that from those lessons from the family we was born into. And so our everyday culture was how we shaped the atmosphere of the house. And our identity was strong. I must say, and I was fortunate. My mom raised so many other people's children in our household because there was a culture in Mary Wells's household where everybody felt accepted. Everybody felt accepted. There was during my mom's passing, when I had the fortune and blessing to officiate her service, and there was a time at the burial where the children of Mary Wells would come and put the flower on her casket. I asked for all of the children, and instead of force myself and my three siblings that I grew up with, I have four sisters, but I grew up with three. We had this extended group of people who my mother raised, right? And they were raised in the culture, and they embraced the value. They understood our rituals, and our habits became their habits because we welcomed them into family. Family identity can be defined as family legacy. Family legacy and history passed down via word of mouth or ancestor research. One of the things I often share is, and we're building something here, right? So stay with me. One of the things that I often share about my family is that I have a family legacy, especially on the Richards side. My grandfather was the second licensed Black plumber in the state of Ohio. My grandfather introduced plastic plumbing to the state of Ohio. Our family came from the Bahamas. We have our genealogy of our family on that side. His sister was the first Black botanist at the University of East Tennessee State and in the state of Mississippi. And so these are things that I know about my family. Now, on some of the other sides of the family, like the Wells side, I can only trace the family a generation. So I don't have the stories. I don't have the legends. I don't have the knowledge of, right? And so watch this now. The strength of me, Aaron, comes from my richer side of the family because there was a family legacy that was passed down at least 4 generations prior to me. And so understanding that it has created something strong. Many of us don't have that family legacy or history that's been passed down, where I know the stories of my great grandmother. I share them with my two daughters, and they share them with their children, right? And so this is important, that our family identity can be defined as family legacy. Also, family identity allows us this wonderful ability to put words to concepts and feelings. Yeah, family identity does that. Culture does that, right? Here at Promise Resource Network, we serve people, but we don't call our people clients. We don't use the word clients or consumers. Why? Because people are people. If you're a client, then that makes me superior to you in relationship. If you're a consumer and I'm the giver of services, I've made myself superior in this situation, when in reality there's this mutuality. We're people helping other people. And so the point is, the culture, the identity of where I work at presents and promotes that. So it creates the words and concepts about how we move, how we navigate, right? And so as a family, right, there are certain things in the family my mom would smack the taste out of your mouth if you called a woman the B word. My mom would literally dislodge you. It just was not right. And so growing up, I didn't call women that. I just didn't. And it was because of the identity of the family created the concept. And because I have sisters and a mom, I wasn't even feeling that. There was nothing about me that made me call you that. Maybe a couple of times out of anger. And then I had to be remorseful about that. And that's the other thing, right? The family identity helps us create those feelings of remorse. It creates boundaries in the things that we say, but it also creates a vocabulary and our concept of where I see the world different because of the way I was raised. My mother always told me that if you can read, right, you can always escape anything, because reading will allow you to see a bigger world. I took that to my children, and so they began to dream about something greater than where they grew up, greater than their street, greater than their house, greater than they saw something greater because they were exposed to something that just wasn't television. It wasn't fictional. They were able to now watch, even in fiction, being able to read helped them develop the concepts. And my mom I'm so fortunate, the family I was raised in, it helped me. And through my addiction, which we'll talk about in a moment, I was able, because of the concepts and feelings that came from my family identity, I was able to label things and be able to understand that this is not the direction I'm supposed to be going in, or this is a part of it. You flowing with me? Family identity puts words to concepts and feelings: love, appreciation, gratitude. I was talking to my good friend the other day, went through a drive-in. And when I went through the drive-in, I'm always nice to people in fast food chains or in public service, those hospitality services anyway, food service, because you never know how people treat them during the day, right? People treat them as if they're insignificant, and there's nobody insignificant. So I always say thank you at the end of an order. And so there was nothing. There was a no, you're welcome. Now, I didn't say thank you so you can say you're welcome, but it's just the concept that I have because of my family identity. There's this appreciation, right? I say thank you for doing anything for me, and right, you're welcome. Well, when I drove around to pick up what I was picking up, it was a different person that took the money and gave me the food. She was older, right? I don't know, it's just what it was. And so when she gave it to me, I said, thank you. She said, you're welcome. The person who took my order was standing right next to her, and he just not what the concept, right? The family identity helps us create those concepts and feelings when we know it's cool to say thank you. And it's also cool to say, you're welcome, right? I love you. I need you. I want you. I appreciate you. Let's talk about that. We collectively build the vocabulary that defines our world. I came from a family that sought peace. So I look for peace in the world, and I can see peace, and I can call peace by name. We can do that with those things that are positive and those things that are negative in life. But those things can come from knowing our family identity. So Family identity. Family identity gives alternatives. Family identity gives alternatives. We have something that helps us navigate decisions, situations in the larger that the larger world presents. Forgive my spelling today, my grammar. We have something that helps us navigate the decisions in the larger world, right? Our family identity gives us alternatives. I share with people often, this is my story, I can't speak for anybody else's. As a young man, prior to college, when I was under my mom and dad's roof, one reason I never went to prison, though I did things along with people who actually did go. One reason why I didn't, the primary reason why I didn't, was because of my family identity, because of what I learned about prison versus freedom, and also because I was more afraid of my father than I was of going to prison. But that's another story, which I think I told you a couple of weeks ago. The family identity created alternatives. The family identity created the alternative for me to go to college. It was their family identity because the family identity was, and culture was, education. My mom worked in a school. My dad believed in education, and though we had the dysfunction of their relationship to balance, what we did get continually was the thought of education. Family identity creates alternatives for us. Family identity should be able to give us different directions into the lives that we build, and we should be able to at times see, I don't want to use the word should, we have the opportunity at times to be able to see, right, the diversity of the alternatives given, and that comes from that family identity, right? That family identity, it gives us alternatives. When the world presents something to us, we don't have to automatically go with that thought because the family taught us something different. There's an alternative to this, and that is this. There was an alternative to me, right? From the things that I was doing with my friends because of my family identity, I had an alternative. I didn't just have to do that. And ultimately, I did something different. Because of what I learned in my family, there was an alternative, right? There were times when I thought my life would go in this direction, but my family identity, because of the things I learned, the values, the culture, the history of family, I realized I didn't have to be locked into just this, that all of this, the world truly was my oyster. I got to be able to go and see the world differently because of family, and because of our family identity. I realized I had alternatives. And watch, when my parents wanted me to go to college, I finally found out I had an alternative. I could still build business. I could still find income to explore life and the planet. So we have something that gives us another view. We can navigate what the world brings to us because family says you don't have to settle for that. You don't have to just do that. And it's vice versa, right? Sometimes the world shows us that some things that we've learned in family aren't necessarily have to be put in concrete, and we can make adjustments and we can do other things. But we'll talk about that in a second. Family identity establishes a port where we can return. Ow! This is my personal part to you. So you know what? This creates tea time. Let me get a sip. Telling y'all, if you don't drink tea, we need to have a long talk. All right, so family identity establishes a port where we can return. I was thinking about shipping when I put this one together, but just listen to this, right? After life throws its best shot at us, whatever that is, sucker punch, boom, punch to the gut. When life creates those consequences sometimes, when life presents those results of decisions that we've made sometimes, right? When life has come at us and we've gone through so many things, it is our family identity that gives us a place to come back to. And I'll give you this example, right? Well, let me read this real quickly. After life throws its best shots at us, we can return to the identity our family gives us. So I don't know if you're in the Charlotte area and you know where Double Oaks used to be. Well, when I first moved to Charlotte, Double Oaks is where I lived at with the person I moved to Charlotte with. And when I got to Charlotte, I just got out the military and I had immediately picked up a crack addiction. And when I say I picked up a crack addiction, I mean, I used both hands and picked that baby up and toted it, right? And so I was working at the Red Cross at the time, okay? I was a supervisor at the Red Cross, and then I became a general operations director or something. I got a promotion, a couple of promotions there. And but I was full-fledged into a crack addiction. I remember coming home one day. It was a payday. It was a Friday. And on that day, I do remember that I couldn't wait to pick up my package. And I was one of those people who I worked for mine, right? I didn't steal. I didn't compromise me. I worked for mine, but I spent it pretty much after I made sure my daughter was tight and I had a roof over my head. The rest of it went to my addiction. And so I remember the day that I had the spiritual epiphany of life change. And I was at Horn Drive, 2204B Horn Drive, Double Oaks. And I don't know if anybody's there now, so don't go ringing that doorbell. And so I was there and I'm in the mirror smoking my crack. And what I had done that pay period. And this is when I began to realize that the addiction was really it was basically killing me. I worked 80 hours, right? So 40 one week and 40 the next. But I had 79 hours of overtime, which means that I worked as much overtime as I did my regular check. I still have that pay sheet. I kept it as a memorial to where my life was spiraling down to. And I kept that pay sheet. And that Friday, after getting paid, I was in the mirror getting high, smoking crack. And there was a voice as audible as you can hear me, if you can hear me, there was a voice that said, I looked in the mirror and that voice said, you were not raised to live like this. You were not raised to do this. And it was at that point, along with a couple of other significant points during that time period, but it was at that moment that I began the journey to get on the road of recovery, to find the road of recovery so I could be well, so that there will be healing in my life. And that was the culmination of the end of a 22-year addiction, because I started very, very young. So my point is, it was because, listen to what I said now, this is what I heard. So I want you to hear what I said, because I want you to know what I heard. You was not raised to do this, is what I heard when I was getting high in that mirror. What it said was your family identity has established a place for you to go back to. You're not just out there in the wild seas in the middle of the ocean, right? Lost. You actually can turn this boat back to a port that is there for you, right? A family identity establishes a port where we can return. Now, is that for everybody? Obviously not. I was fortunate. I say that over and over and over. But remember, 2 weeks ago is when we began talking, you get to establish who your family is. If it's your extended friends, if it's your bowling partners, if it's a couple of co-workers, if it's your spouse's family, right? If you do not have the biological family in place that I had, right? And we were dysfunctional. We had a lot of issues. I don't mind using the word. It identifies me and I'm cool with it. It identifies who we was. But there was so much love. There was so much care. There was so much concern. And there were some roots from our identity. It gave me a place to go back to. I'm hoping that we all have that place. And if not, let's make that happen. All right. So family identity. Family identity can be defined as habits and rituals, values in our everyday culture. Family identity can be defined as the family legacy that's been passed down. I was fortunate to understand and to know. My cousins, down in Atlanta, they have traced their family back pre-slavery to the country of Ghana in Africa. And so when we have that, and they're a strong family unit, and knowing your history helps so very much. And we're talking about wellness and recovery and healing in families, knowing your family identity, having a family identity. It can help. Family identity, it puts words to concepts and feelings, right? So understand the word love and peace and harmony and growth, investment. Family identity can put words to concepts and feelings. Family identity can also give us alternatives, right? That when the world shows us that you must be this, a strong family identity says, nah, I've got other options besides that, and vice versa, right? When our families that we come from having given us an identity, or an identity that might not be what we need in society. We might come from some things that we saw that just wasn't good. We may have come from a family where abuse was the norm or neglect was the norm, right? That reverse side, that identity we don't want. And so we can see now, I don't want that. I got to go figure out and find what it is that best suits who I have found out that I am. And family identity also establishes a port where we can return. When we have strong family identity, once life has had its way with us and we have gone through struggles and we have gone through consequences and we have gone through difficult and challenging times, strong family identity says, you know what? I have some place to go rest. I have something to rebuild from. I have a place to go ahead and reboost. Not boot, we can do that, but also reboost, get a charge, right? Because life has presented itself to us. I go back to my family identity. I reabsorb those values. I reabsorb that love and care. I reabsorb that. Take a deep breath and move forward. All right, let's talk about it a little bit. However means what? It means however. However, we have an individual identity within our family identity. We have, me, you, who's ever listening, we have an individual identity within our family identity. The question then becomes, who am I? I found out who we are. Now I want to know who I am. And the reality for Aaron has been and was, until I find out who I am, I can never be the best for who we are. And what will happen is I will always be defined by who we are, but I'm an individual and I want to be defined by who I am. You flowing with me? Even at work, even here, I love Promise Resource Network. I'm bought in 100%. I'm in my 7th year here. I've been blessed to be in leadership here. I supervise, I mentor people here. I love this. This is my career, and this fulfills my career. However, I came here as Aaron Wells. And whenever I leave, I'll leave here as Aaron Wells, right? So I get to be me in this largest of organization. I get to be me. So I know who I am. I found my identity. So I want I can insert my identity into the identity of the organization. I get to insert my identity into the identity of my family. My family gets to insert its identity into the identity of our community, and so on and so on. You get the picture? And so it's important for us. It's important for us, however, right, to understand that we have an individual identity. And that's where sometimes the clashes can happen, because family structure has created this identity for itself, or an identity has evolved, and I've been born into I've been placed into that family. So I've been placed into that identity. But as I grow and I get to learn me and I get to discover me, sometimes that identity don't work for me. Sometimes that identity does not work for me. Sometimes that identity does not work for moi. And so now I'm in this position. I've got to figure me out. Now, it's one thing to figure out what doesn't work. Now, the second part of that is I got to figure out what does work for me. Who I am is as important as who we are. Who I am is as important as who we are. Who I am is as important as who we are. I'll not minimize who we are, right? And exalt myself over that, but I'm also not going to exalt who we are over who I am. Because who I am is as important as who we are. My family identity is not greater than my individual identity. Nope. As we're nurtured, it may be, right? But I have the right to be me. I'm placed on the planet to be me. I know some people who have been in some recovery entities, some recovery concepts and organizations, and throw no names out there. But I've known some people, and I've heard several people say, "Well, that's not for me anymore." And part of it was I consistently hear because I lose myself to the philosophies. They don't speak for me. And that's okay. And everything has a purpose. Your identity is as important as the identity of the greater. You're flowing with me? I hear people throw blanket statements about people from Philly. Well, I'm Aaron Wells. I'm from Philly, but I'm Aaron Wells. I remember that, and I shared with you all that church was my entryway into my recovery and wellness. I went to church. I developed at his invitation a relationship with God, and church was where I settled to grow that relationship and find my wellness and healing. But at some point, by making the greater more important, I lost myself, and I started being. I was recovering, and I was on a road to wellness, but there were a lot of things not healing. And one reason I realized that, and this is Aaron just telling his story for this time that we're together, I was losing myself and I stopped healing myself. I changed behaviors. I stopped getting high. I started doing things that interest me. I had a passion for Bible study and evangelizing and all these different things, but I started losing me. So, and one of the things I realized is by being absorbed into the greater, I made the greater so much more than me. And I lost my identity. And it was at a point, just like when I realized I had the epiphany about what the addiction was doing to me, I had to realize what that being connected to that fellowship was doing to me. I was losing my identity. And I was on the planet to have an identity and to do some things as Aaron Wells, not just a member of, right? And so my family identity is not greater than my individual identity. I had to come to that realization. Your family identity, though we need that from the onset, it's not greater than your personal identity. Whether you're going to your meetings or church or your work, it is not greater than your identity. You are just as important as anything or anybody on the planet. All right. So let's keep flowing. We're talking about family healing and wellness, and we're looking at the family identity versus our individual identity. Someone once said, "To thine own self be true." So Aaron, you started talking about family a couple of weeks ago because we usually only focus on individuals. So you want to talk about family wellness. Absolutely. You are absolutely skippy and correct. So today is where I want to be able to extend this conversation, right? And explore this thought that we do need our families, however we define family. Don't have to be nuclear. Ain't got to be mom, dad, and 2.5 children. excuse me, it could be best friend and cousin or neighbor or somebody in my meeting, somebody in my church, whoever, right? This is my family, but I want them to be healthy and I want them to be whole. And in order for me to contribute to that, I need to be healthy, well, and whole. So this is the connection between, right? But we do not want to lose ourselves in the greater where we no longer are an individual. We no longer have likes and tastes and passions of our own. So to thine own self be true. I make the greater better, but I'm not going to be lesser in it, right? I make it better. I make it better. My presence makes it better. So I keep building me. I keep building this and sustaining my recovery and wellness so I can make my church better, or I can make my NAIA group better, so I can make my employment better, right? My presence should make the greater better, but I do not lose who I am by being a part of. So let's keep talking about it now. We flowed that we're talking about the individual identity versus the greater identity, the family versus the individual identity. We're only talking about identities here because we want to establish who we are in our wellness and our recovery and our healing. So I'm talking to my coworker buddy, and she said something that I found to be real poignant. I found it to be, it was sterling. Right? She said it today, and they're like, oh, that's that. You hear it, you're like, yes, for today. So I want to give Bunny credit from our conversation today about what I was going to discuss. When we talk about the individual identity, and when we talk about the family identity and one versus another, at times the family identity can create an invisible wall of identity where we don't know who we are. We're so ingrained in that family identity or that job identity or that relationship identity or that those meetings or my support groups or whatever it is. I'm so lost in there. I've lost my individual identity, and there's an invisible wall. So as I try to establish who I am, I keep bumping into the identity of the greater. I've seen that when I was in the military, that men and women who would be in the military, they forgot who they were. So they were always Sergeant so-and-so, Corporal so-and-so, or General so-and-so. This is who they always was. And you're on the battlefield at work, that's who you are. But when you go home and you're General so-and-so and Sergeant so-and-so, how does your family ever get to know you as father? How does your wife ever get to know you as husband, or your neighbor ever get to know you as John or Sally? Because you're always Sergeant so-and-so. There's a wall, an invisible wall now of identity where you cannot be you because there's this wall you keep bumping into of the greater. We've got to get past that wall. We have got to get past that wall. We've got to be able to build on the strength of the greater, but our lives of individuals, because we make the greater better. We have to tear down the invisible wall of identity. We get to, on the other side of that wall, right? Whether we tear it down, jump over it, get around it, we get to build, redefine, and understand ourselves. We get to understand who I am and dig this, who I choose to be. That's the funny thing about self-esteem, isn't it? Isn't that the oxymoron about self-esteem? That self-esteem tells us that it's about self, but we get the identity from somebody else. Self-esteem is something that is given to you early on, right? And it really is other people's opinion about you that you find, that you believe. You're this, you're that, you're this. And it could be negative or positive. I used to hear some really not good stuff from my dad occasionally. And I believed it about me. And it affected my self-esteem. But when I became older and I had more information, I realized alternatives. We talked about that, right? I realized that though my dad loved me, he was misguided about who I am. So I had to go out and find, through mistakes, trials, and errors, I had to go out and find who Aaron was, who Aaron is. And so I got to get past the invisible wall of identity and was able over all these years to build, redefine, and understand why, right? And so now I get to be who I am and who I choose to be. We have a new buddy hanging out, Sandra. Hello. I am hopeful my son will be able to get peer support when in person is available, hopefully soon now. And you go ahead and connect with my sidekick, Lisa, who just replied to you, Sandra. Go ahead and give us a call. Give us a call, and I'll give you a number if you don't have it, Sandra, at the end of this. So you flow with me here, and we can give you a help. And I appreciate always the conversation, right? This is what our classes are for. This virtual class would be just like us being in place, and you raised your hand and said, yo. And if you ask a question, we're there to answer them, right? And so, Sandra, thank you for being on, number one. And number two, thank you for reaching out. And Lisa's got you covered. And I'll give you a phone number real shortly as I put the plane in the hangar. So you hang in there, Sandra, hang in there with me. And thank you for hanging out with us today. So we want to tear down the invisible wall of identity, because we get to build, redefine, and understand who we are. And this is important for us, family. If we're going to look at family wellness, family healing, family recovery, if we're going to build those families collectively, then we understand who we are individually, and we get to bring the best of us. Now, dig this. Everybody in family, no matter how you define family, might not be doing the work that you're doing on self. That is another reason why it is important for us to do work on self, because sometimes our recovery and our wellness and what we build is the example that others have been waiting to see, and now they can make a decision. Sometimes they decide, you know what? But many times they decide, yeah, right? So within family, however you define family, when people see me putting the me work in, it gives them an example. It doesn't mean they're gonna move as you move. It doesn't mean that when you do that necessarily means they're gonna do it when you do. But you've created an example. You've created an atmosphere by you doing you, by you building your recovery and wellness, by you choosing to be healed. You create an atmosphere within family that others can see. And when their time comes, because everybody's time comes, you weren't always who you are. So we don't want to get, now that we're that recovery-minded, wellness-oriented person, now that we've healed from a couple of things, we don't want to be pointing the fingers at people. No, everybody has their time. Our job is to work on us so that when their time comes, they have an example right here in the family. And then the family identity changes from unhealthy to healthy, unwell to well, unhealed to healed. You with me? And so today's conversation is about family identity versus identity within the family. We want to make sure that we grab the best of the family identity, but we're only using that to build our own identity so we can make the family, which is greater, better, right? I have really enjoyed this. I'm starting to really fall in love with this family piece because I love my family, love them. And this has been part of my lived experience because family is so important to me, and everybody who knows me knows that. But we didn't just get here. We've been through trials and tribulations. We've been through addictions. We've been through diagnosis. We've been through loss. We've been through gain. We had times we didn't even speak. My sisters and I didn't speak for 4 years. But I wouldn't trade anything you have for my sisters. You know what I mean? And so it took us living life to get where we are. So some of this that I give you is research, but so much of it is a lived experience, just being around people who talk about our family dynamics. So research shows us that acceptance, belonging, and well-being, we can find those and should find those. It would be great if we could. I don't like the word should. It would be great if we could find those within our family structure. We talked about the fact that creating a strong family identity helps build family wellness. That's family identity. And I want to keep going back, no matter who you say family is. Your definition and my definition may not be the same. What you see as my family, I might not see as your family. Okay, that's important for us to understand. But as I give out these principles and these little tidbits and things that I want to share with you and you share with me, whatever we call family, we just want to make them better, and we want to bring wellness and healing to our families every day. We talked about the fact that family identity can be defined as our habits, our rituals, our values, and the everyday culture that we create within family. And I always go back to my family growing up in Philly, and the fact that my mom raised so many of the friends of myself and my sisters because of the culture she created. You know, Miss Mary created that culture where people, now there was discipline. Ooh, was it? Boy, was it. There was discipline, there was a structure, but there was such an open arm policy that everybody was important in my neighborhood. And so if you came our way and that's where you landed, then my mom treated you as hers and we treated you as ours. Family identity can be defined as family legacy and history passed down via word of mouth or ancestor research. And I do want to add this, and this is just an observation of somebody with gray hairs that's been on the planet for 62 years. Many of the issues in our culture come from the fact that people feel disconnected from something bigger and greater. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they feel disconnected. And this is why that piece of knowing where you came from. This is an issue in the Black community, right? Many of us can only trace ourselves back to so many generations, where others on the planet can trace themselves back to other generations of other countries. And so there is a reality that when we have a legacy of where we've come from, and this is why it is vital for us to be able to do that in whatever we call family. If it's extended family, if it's community family, whatever it is, that we trace and be able to build our legacy. One of the things I really dig about NA and AA, or I believe it's AA, they can trace, after all these years, they trace it back to those two founders. Now, that might not be a big deal to you, but being involved in something that can trace itself back to the origins, right? And I can now, people who have known that person, who has known this person, and now they know me, I'm connected, I belong to something. Family identity puts words to concepts and feelings. For my family, it was love and honor and peace and fairness. Oh, fairness, right? We understood what meanness was and rudeness. I'm gonna tell you, my family does not like, we have a problem with rudeness. And so these are things that we learned, and we were able to put words. We created a whole vocabulary because of the family identity. And as I share here at PRN, we have a whole vocabulary that is trauma informed because it's the culture that came from the work family, the organization. Mm-hmm. And as we get ready to put the plane in the hangar, family identity gives us alternatives. Family identity also establishes a port where we can return. As we live life and life treats us on life's terms, we have a place to come back to. But the most important thing today is with family identity, I want to make sure I have my identity to fit in, because I get to make the greater better. And who I am is as important as who we are. And remember that in community, who I am, your neighbor, the person you pass on the street, whether the person's experiencing houselessness or homelessness, whether the person is in addiction, whether the person has a mental health diagnosis, no matter what it is, remember that who that person is just as great as who we all are. All right. So that was it for us today. I want to thank everybody that came in and hung out, appreciating you. Sandra, I got something for you, buddy, my friend, Miss Sandra, and it is this. Two things, Sandra. The very first thing is, these are both for you, Sandra, specifically, but generally for anybody else. Our warm line is free and confidential, 7 days a week, 24 hours, 7 days a week. And you can reach us on our warm line at 833-390-7728. And it literally is that. A warm line is where warm ears and warm hearts are waiting to hear from you, where if there's emotional issues, if there's things that you want to talk about, then you give our folks, peer support specialists, are on that call waiting for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You could always get to somebody to hear your heart. The second thing is that I want to give you, Sandra, is this: our front desk, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, our front desk. And you can reach myself. You can reach Lisa K, who we're co-directors of the Hub. You can call and ask for peer support, right? You'll speak with Kim Porter, who mans that phone, or someone who will be sitting in for her. They'll get the message to us, and I promise you, you will hear from us. And I'm sure Lisa's taking care of that right now. That number is 704-390-7709. 704-390-7709. Please give us a call, 704-390-7709. All right, everybody. I'm out of time. This is My Family with Aaron Wells. These are conversations about family wellness, recovery, and healing. Today, we talked about family identity versus the identity within the family. The family is the identity. The family identity is what I've built my foundation on. However, who I am as an individual is just as important as who the family is as a whole. And I want to take the time to grab all the nutrients and the good stuff from my family identity, so I will have the resources and supports and the building material to build the quality of life I want as an individual. I love you. I hope you are well. Warm line, 833-390-7728. Front desk, 704-390-7709. Bless you. Don't forget to share this. Facebook, like the Promise Resource Network page. Go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. Have a great weekend, and remember to be the support that you want. Love you. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.